Hello everyone, this is Ned for TGN.TV and I'd like to welcome you to the second episode of the Star Wars The Old Republic Holocron. In this episode we are going to go over the classes on the Galactic Republic, but I'm not doing this alone, no. I have my favourite German right here with me, the Tarian Bestball. Say hello.
This is the Tarian Bestball with TGN.TV. Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the SWTOR Holocron, and dibs on Elder Jedi for me. Take it, Ned.
Star Wars Galaxies, yes, we have the new graphics, and today we're just here to talk about the classes in the Old Republic. So I think I shall start off with the Jedi Knight. Now, the Jedi Knight is obviously the Jedi Knight, the class that everyone wanted to play when they were 5 and perhaps still want to play. The Jedi Knight is the kind of backbone of the Republic. In the time at this present date, the Jedi have sort of been forced off their homeworld and relocated on Typhon, but enough of that. Now, in the Old Republic, in MMOs in general, you have the class archetypes, you have the tank, you have the DPS, and obviously you have the healer. Now, the Jedi Knight is a DPS and a tank. They can fulfill either roles, and they have their specializations, which are the Guardian and the Sentinel. Now, originally it was intended that the Guardian was going to be a pure tank, with, the one-handed lightsaber swinging in combat, stuff like that, and the Sentinel is a dual-wielding, sort of heavy DPS class, 2 lightsabers, zing, 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 all that stuff, but, it has recently been revealed that due to feedback, everyone was sort of saying, well, we don't want a DPS with 2 one-handers, we want a DPS with a big one-hander, and that's what BioWare said, yep, sure thing. So now they're adding a DPS tree for the Guardian as well, and I think that's all we have to know about the Jedi Knight at the moment. It can wear heavy armor, lightsaber combat, and everything else. And now it's your turn, Tobias. Pick a class.
Oh, well, I would like to pick on the Jedi Knight first again, because I think we should mention
I probably
the
missed
general
something
style of the Jedi Knight. Pretty interesting in contrast to what you've seen in the movies. The Old Republic Jedi Knights, they're used to wearing armor. So not like in the movies, just robes and that's it. Nope, these guys are actually pretty heavily armored. Of course, using the lightsabers, some cloaks going on for visual effects, as always. And yep, pretty much the rest has been covered. I'm looking forward to the DPS specializations and to the tank specializations. Let's see how they turn out. But enough about the Jedi Knight. Let's look at another class. Let's look at the Trooper.
Yes.
Well, guys, the Trooper. If you've played Star Wars Galaxies, that should be a class that is in the direction of a commando. That means heavy firepower, lots of HP, heavy armor, can take lots of damage, and I think the Trooper is going to be a pretty interesting class. It's basically a class for everyone out there who wants to do range DPS, who wants to have a pretty big badass weapon, and do the good old Republic fighting techniques, that is, hold your ground and just shoot until nothing is moving anymore. And well, the Trooper has 2 specializations. These are Commando and Vanguard, and basically these 2 are going in the direction of either more defense-oriented or more DPS-oriented, but maybe Ned wants to comment on that one.
Sure thing. Well, you have the Vanguard and Commando, and originally the Vanguard was sort of going to be the tank and Commando DPS, but we now know that the Vanguard will also be able to do mid to high range DPS with the sort of big old weapons, and the Commando can actually heal. So yeah. So well, I mean, Tobias, you know more about Star Wars Galaxies than me, and I believe you could heal in that game. So what do you think could be in store for the Trooper?
Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see whether the Trooper will be in the Commando spec a full-out healer or just a auxiliary healers slash something that can heal itself pretty well, but no one else. And another thing that I find pretty interesting is that the Vanguards actually will be using rather normal weaponry, whereas the Commando will be using the big-ass heavy blaster cannons.
The great two-handed stuff.
Yeah, the big cannons like if you played Star Wars Galaxies, like something like the lava cannon, rocket launcher, some things in that direction. So that should be pretty interesting. And we already talked about outfitting or general appearance. Well, it's an Old Republic trooper, heavy armor, big blaster rifles, and big heavy weapons. That's going to be in store for the trooper. Should be pretty nice for anyone who doesn't want to wield a lightsaber. But there are also other classes in the game. Ned?
Yes. Well, now we get to the Jedi Counselor. And actually, before I go on, I should probably point out that the whole idea behind these classes that they looked in the movies and sort of took the archetypes, like you have the sort of the Jedi Knight, Luke Skywalker, you have the sort of the Trooper, the clones, stuff like that, and then we get to the Jedi Counselor, which is quite interesting because it doesn't really have any archetypes apart from the Yoda, I guess. But enough of that now. The Jedi Counselor is the more sort of force-centered nature of the Jedi. These guys can do damage by, throwing projectiles at their enemies, hurling stuff across the battlefield, or they can take up a double-bladed lightsaber and run into the fight on melee. So there's not really anything like it, I guess, in any Star Wars games I know of. Is there anything like it in Star Wars Galaxies, Tobias?
Yep, there actually is, but they were all in this Jedi class. So you could go in the dark side or light side specs, and there was a neutral spec as well. But basically, some of the abilities of the Counselor are in there. For example, healing, various force effects like force push, force pull, something like that. It should be mentioned that the Counselor is rather about pushing stuff around and crushing stuff, not about the force lightning, force drain stuff going on. That's
Inquisitor
for the
Sith.
Inquisitor only. That's the Palpatine archetype, but we'll talk about that later. In another episode, I believe. So yeah, the Counselor basically is the counterpoint to the Sith Inquisitor lightsaber. A little bit of force combat going on, and of course healing abilities. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how the Counselor will be playing out in the end.
It will, and one quick thing to add. The Jedi Counselor, it has recently been announced that they can now tank if you're spec'd into the Jedi Shadow, which utilises the sort of double-bladed lightsaber, has some stealth abilities. You will be able to tank, and it's going to be interesting to see how this works out, because the Counselor is a sort of light armoured class, so maybe there's some force abilities that you can use to, I don't know, imbue your armour, maybe. But that's about as much as we know for the Counselor at this point in time. Now, I believe we have one more class to cover. Tell us more.
Well, all of you should be familiar with this class if you have watched the original Star Wars episodes 4 to 6. That's the Han Solo archetype, the smuggler. Dirty fighting all over the place. Luck of the draw, throwing up a coin,
the scum of the earth
with a trusty blaster. Yep, the scum. Well, the smugglers, of course, being a lightly armored class, they don't fancy wearing armor or having these big-ass blaster rifles. Nope, they use pistols or even dual-wielding pistols, and they rely on, well, stealthy and not so friendly, let's put it like that, attacks. Basically, they have two specializations. One is Gunslinger, which is basically the all-out, in-your-face Desperado style, and you have the Scoundrel, and the Scoundrel is, well, if you don't have time for being polite or you don't want to pick fair fights, then the Scoundrel is the direction to go for you. So, as you all know, Han Solo shot first. If you haven't seen the original movies, Han Solo shot first. He's a Scoundrel.
He always shot first. No one could beat him at what he did.
Exactly. Did I miss anything about the smuggler?
Well, it has recently been... Actually, we've known this for a while, but scoundrels are actually going to be able to heal with the use of sort of... I think it was an advanced medipack and these healing droids. So that's going to be interesting to see how this works out. It's going to be very cool.
So the smuggler is basically going to be another class in the direction of either going DPS or
healing.
support/healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
As well as having the both of them can DPS. The difference is that scoundrels are close range and gunslingers are long range. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Yep, exactly. Okay, I believe that should be all for this episode. Do you want to add anything else?
Nope, I don't think so. This has been Ned for TGN.tv, and say goodbye, Tobias.
Goodbye, everyone. See you in the next episode where we'll talk to you about the
Empire
Sith
classes.
Empire classes.
This is where it gets good.
Yeah.
You will want to see this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh well.
See you guys soon.
Goodbye.